The Israelites, newly freed from Egypt, were on a journey. God had promised them a land of their own, a land flowing with milk and honey. Moses, their leader, went up Mount Sinai to receive God's laws, the Ten Commandments. These commandments were a sacred agreement, a covenant between God and his people. But when Moses came down from the mountain, he found the Israelites worshiping a golden calf, a false idol. They had broken the covenant. In anger and sadness, Moses threw down the tablets, breaking them. The covenant was broken. The broken tablets represented a broken relationship. The Israelites, through their disobedience, had turned away from God. They had lost their way. The consequences of their actions were severe. A plague struck the people, a punishment for their idolatry. The once promised land seemed very far away, but even in their unfaithfulness, God was merciful. He was willing to forgive and renew his covenant with them. He instructed Moses to carve out 2 new stone tablets identical to the first. Moses was to ascend Mount Sinai once more, to stand in the presence of God. There was hope for the Israelites, a chance to make things right. Moses, carrying the weight of his people's actions, ascended Mount Sinai again. He carried with him the new tablets, blank slates ready to receive God's words. The journey was arduous, a physical manifestation of the weight he carried on his shoulders. But Moses was determined he would plead with God on behalf of his people. He would seek forgiveness and a way back to the covenant. God, in his infinite mercy, appeared to Moses. He stood before Moses in a cloud, his glory filling the mountaintop. The presence of God was overwhelming, a reminder of his power and holiness, and yet, there was also a sense of love and compassion. God was ready to speak, to renew his promise, to offer a second chance. Moses, humbled and awed, stood before God. He listened as God declared his name and his attributes. He heard God's promise of forgiveness and his willingness to restore the broken covenant. Hope flickered in Moses' heart, hope for his people, hope for their future. On those new tablets, God wrote the 10 Commandments once more. Word by word he inscribed his law, his will for his people. The same words that had been etched on the first tablets now found a new home on these stones. They were a symbol of God's unwavering faithfulness, his commitment to his people, even when they faltered. The 10 Commandments, a blueprint for living a righteous life, were a gift from God. They were not meant to burden the Israelites, but to guide them, to protect them, and to show them how to live in harmony with God and with each other. They were a reminder of God's love, his desire for them to experience true freedom and fulfillment. These commandments, etched in stone, were a tangible representation of the covenant. They were a constant reminder of God's presence in their lives, his love, and his expectations. They were to be cherished, obeyed, and passed down through generations. With the new tablets in hand, Moses descended Mount Sinai. He returned to the Israelites, carrying with him the promise of forgiveness and a renewed covenant. The people, having faced the consequences of their actions, were repentant. They were ready to recommit themselves to God and to follow his laws. The renewal of the covenant was a celebration of God's mercy and grace. It was a testament to his unwavering love for his chosen people. The brokenness had been repaired, the relationship restored. The Israelites had been given a second chance, an opportunity to live up to their calling as God's treasured possession. The journey ahead was still long and arduous. There would be challenges and temptations along the way, but they would face them together, with God at their side, guided by his law and empowered by his love. They were a forgiven people, ready to step into their destiny, carrying with them the hope of a promised land.